Well, my interest in it really was simply the protection of nature. And there are a lot of reasons for that. And I think basically, of course, is to try and protect the other species on this earth and their habitats that sustain them. Well, the one way to do that is to set aside natural areas, and that's the role really of a conservancy. Now, though those areas might be used for a variety of purposes, the main one again being the protection of nature, but we need scientifically, we need areas where scientists can study nature, try and unlock some of the information that we need to manage the rest of the environment. They're sort of historical features in a sense, rather like a museum that for people, especially now that so many people live in cities, to give them some idea what the real countryside is like or was like when the country was opened up. And frankly, there's a big element there of simply the inspiration that one gets from nature. And I see that partly as an evolutionary biologist, that it's because we were evolved in nature. That's our habitat, so we have to look after it and protect it. But in many ways, for many people, contact with nature is important. It's part of we need it for our health, if nothing else. So those are all reasons for doing it. And I guess my interest in the Nature Conservancy was it seemed like a way of doing it.
How about you, Robin?
Well, as the Nature Conservancy matured, if I can use that word, the scientific basis for preserving particular pieces of land was always at the forefront, I thought. We always maintained on the board some naturalists. We weren't all just businessmen or professionals, but there were people on the board who had a scientific interest in land. And I felt that was very important. And we had other problems, of course. Preserving land is purchasing the land, but after that's done, it has to be stewarded, and money has to be raised for that. And that was well recognized by the board, and it became more and more important because the Conservancy started to expand exponentially, and so more and more land came under our stewardship, which we had to deal with, and we had to keep the land in the state that it was, or improve it possibly. But in any event, we couldn't just buy a piece of land and forget about it. And I think we're the only organization in Canada that's so focused on buying and preserving land and choosing land on a scientific basis.
That's a good point that he's raising, because in the early days, of course, we had, as he said, a group of naturalists and so on who had some concept of what was important, but not very much scientific backing for that. And we were such a small organization that we had to go do the best we could under the circumstances. And very often that meant taking land in association with another organization, which might be the one that decided what land needed to be preserved. In Ontario, for example, there were the conservation authorities. And one of the first people who worked in our organization was Charles Soriel, and he'd been connected with the conservation authorities. And he suggested that we should try to help them acquire land. Now, of course, their purposes were similar to ours, so that seemed to make some sense. But it was much easier for a small organization to do it that way, and there were even matching government grants for the areas that the various conservation authorities were protecting, so that we could put in our money, often helping a conservation authority that's out in some rural area and didn't have much money to devote to conservation, and that would be matched by the government, and in that way we got quite a lot done. But it was later, really, that we were able to strike out more on our own and use our own criteria for what areas we wanted to protect or we felt should be protected. So there's been a gradual transition. Of course, the Nature Conservancy still works with other organizations. It takes all the help we can get to accomplish our purpose.